So it looks like we have Maury Watson here, two folks. I'm afraid that if you both unmute, we're going to get some feedback. So maybe just unmute one and just make sure everything's working properly here. The mute button's usually in the bottom left of the screen of the Zoom application. Are either of you able to unmute your?
Okay, there we go.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Yeah. If you could just give me your name, tell me who you're representing here today.
Maury and Ricky Watson. We are the owners of 2806 Morningridge Drive.
Okay. Great. Welcome. See, we also have Trey Sheldon here from the planning department. Hi, Trey.
Hey Trey, how you doing?
Good morning, all.
All right. To the Watsons, are we expecting anyone else to join us here today before we get started?
No.
Okay. All right, great. Let's jump into it then. I need to read through our hearing script. This will just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll get started. So this is the September 4th, 2024 session of the Zoning Hearing Examiner docket. Again, my name is David Sturkey. I'll be presiding over the hearing today. The case before us is case number ZH20240101. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any other parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any other party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. So that'll be the Watsons. That'll be your opportunity to tell me about the project, any background you think is important, what exactly it is you're proposing to do, the relief that you're requesting today, and why you think that relief is appropriate. If there were anyone here from the public, they'd have an opportunity to speak after you all had told me about the case. I'll then move to Mr. Sheldon from the planning department to provide any testimony in addition to his staff report. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to that testimony and or argument that was offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties with the Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those issues on the fly, but to the extent there's a defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. All right, the last thing I need to do here is just swear in all of our witnesses. So if you intend on providing any testimony here today, making any statements at all, doing anything other than just strictly observing, the zoning code requires that I swear you in. So if that's you, if you could raise your right hand, I'll need everyone to answer out loud. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. All right. To the Watsons, are you all ready to proceed?
Yes.
Okay, floor is yours.
So we are requesting a 6-foot fence around our property. We currently live on a corner lot, and the new law states that it can only be 4 foot with 50% opaque. So we're requesting a 6 foot to be a privacy fence.
Okay. And what any more reasoning or rationale why you think this is appropriate for the property?
Yeah, I currently run a type B daycare. And I'm on like I said, I'm on a corner and there's just a lot of traffic. It's for safety reasons for the kids and myself for being out there. I have had several instances where there has been protection orders against parents not being able to see the kids. And that is partly our main reason. I mean,
Okay.
basically, we had 2 situations where we had orders, but like I said, a parent can just walk down the street and you have the view of my entire backyard.
Gotcha. Okay. So, child safety,
Yeah,
the corner lot sort of leaves you without sort of a traditional backyard like the rest of the neighborhood. Is that?
correct, correct.
Right. And the way our corner lot sits, our backyard here, it's not a distraction to any view coming around the corner or any of that. Because our backyard sits so far in off the corner, it don't abstract anything that's coming around the corner. Our street is also it's a dead end street, so it's not traffic flowing both ways. It's only one way in, one way out. Besides that, we've had our shed broken into at some point, and we want to also protect what we have, in our shed and on our porch here.
Got it. Okay. How far set back from the property line is the fence proposed to be?
Do you have that?
You talking about the side of it?
Yeah, so I'm talking mostly about the area that yeah, runs along the side there, the side rear.
So it's
Looking,
do you have the drawing
Yes, I do.
in front
Yeah.
of you?
Mhm.
Okay.
I-
So the sidewalk, so it's like it's it look like it's 6 foot from the sidewalk to the to the pad on the side there. So
Okay.
then it's probably another 6 feet to the street.
Okay.
So it's a good ways off the street. It's a good ways, off the corner from the corner to where our property sits on that back end there.
Gotcha. So will the fence be between the pad and the sidewalk?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. All right. Anything else you'd like to tell me now about the proposal?
no, just it really, like we said, is for safety. I mean, it prevents people from walking through our backyard for whatever reason. We can be sitting out there and there's people just walking in between houses. And it's just a startling effect, people just walking through your yard without any regards to it's not their property. So
Got it. Okay. All right. I think I'll turn it over to Mr. Sheldon. Trey, anything you want to add here?
Yeah, David, we kind of went through this at staff meeting and so on. We're trying to, as we often do with these things, to try to, get to what seemed to be a hardship, based on the variance test. And, essentially there's a pretty substantial backyard still. We realized that other folks that really there aren't a lot of corners around here at all. In fact, this is basically a 90-degree bend in the same street. But because of the way zoning, looks at this, that is a corner side yard, even though it's the continuation of the same street. But what we essentially came up with was what we're recommending is approval with conditions. I had discussed this originally with the Watsons, and originally there was some discussion about the future of having a pool or so on, which would have to be fenced separately, of course, to keep the children safe, and so on. And one thing that came up is that their patio already extends, existing patio extends out west of the west side of the house. And so that wasn't sort of, you're not going to bisect it. So, to be compliant, one of the suggestions was possibly, doing 4-foot fence out there around that and an arborvitae or something. But what ended up ultimately, after discussion with staff and with especially zoning administrators' input, was the recommendation that based on the corner side setback rules for building a house are, like an addition, if they were to do an addition, essentially is 1/2 of the front yard setback, the required front yard setback, which in this district would be 30 feet. So that'd be 15 feet. And that happens to coincide like pretty perfectly with where their patio is. So we thought that in light of that, and it was reasonable to be able to, since they could in fact do an addition on the side of their house out to within 15 feet of the property line, and then a compliant fence could line up with that addition, we thought it was sensible to follow that same guideline, that seemed reasonable in the context here. And that we were able to get to a recommendation of approval if they were to do that. In other words, it would require pulling the fence in somewhat from where it is now, but further than what would be compliant, you know what I mean? Normally compliant with lining up with that west side of the house. So basically they could do the fence over 4 feet further than what's compliant to include the patio and then the rest of the backyard. It is still a very substantial backyard. I've addressed that in my staff report pretty well. I mean, there's plenty of room even for kids. There's lots of room for that. And so that is what ultimately staff and the zoning administrator were recommending it. We think it's reasonable in light of the zoning code, which would allow the addition on the house to be out to within 15 feet of the side property line, but and not have like the daycare use and the privacy fence encroaching out all the way out to closer toward the sidewalk itself. Does that make sense? Any of what part of what I'm describing?
So, I was wondering, Trey, if you're able to share your screen, if you have, I can share mine as well. I'm looking at the satellite image and your staff report to sort of dial in exactly where you're suggesting the fence should be located or set back from.
Yeah, if you want to screen share or something, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So, based on the testimony and the application materials that I've heard today, can everyone see my screen here?
Yes.
Yeah. It sounds like the fence proposal is somewhat in the middle of the sidewalk and the concrete patio here. So somewhere in the middle here.
Okay.
Right. Is that the proposal from the Watsons? That's what it looks like on the drawing. Like in this area?
A little bit, yeah, but I don't know the dimensions of that. Because that's the properly.
Yeah, let me pull over the drawings here. Yeah, so I can't tell exactly what the dimension is here either. Do we have any sense for what from this distance is what I was asking earlier, here to here?
That's 6 foot from the sidewalk to the pad.
Okay. Got it. And Trey, you're recommending approval, but with the condition that the fence is located closer to the concrete pad. Is that right?
That's correct, because there it's kind of reasonable in the context of it, in comparison to other people's yards in the neighborhood that aren't on a corner. But it seems we just couldn't get to a hardship for it being out further that way. But it seems reasonable in the context of why would you not allow a privacy fence out to a certain extent, given the existing concrete patio, when you would in fact allow an addition out as far as that concrete patio. The concrete patio is approximately 15 feet from the sidewalk, from the the right of way there. And that coincides almost, pretty much exactly with what the required side yard setback would be to put an addition. Like, in other words, if
Got it.
they were to put a sunroom over the top of that concrete patio, it'd be, right on, almost dead on compliance for 15-foot side yard setback. So we, after rehashing that, and the zoning administrator came up with that sort of, instead of having to recommend a denial for lack of undue hardship, we thought that that was very reasonable in the context of the already built patio, the ability for them to, if they wanted to, if they wanted to put an addition over the top of the patio, they'd be able to put a privacy fence coming back from it straight back. Does that make sense? That part of it?
It does. But to be clear, so you're instead of 6 feet, just assuming it's a 6 feet, it would be 11 feet, so 5 more feet closer to the concrete patio, but still 4 feet off of the concrete patio.
No, it would be lined up with the patio. It would be 4 feet off the side of the existing house approximately. See, it's a total of 19 feet, David, to the house.
Yeah,
So
right.
basically allowing them to build out to the side of the concrete patio, and cages that measured up at about 4 feet, the concrete patio goes out about 4 feet. Essentially, we're allowing them a fence at about 15 feet. Essentially, if they line up with the side of the concrete patio, we felt that was about where you'd be able, if you put a sunroom over the top of that patio, right, like a 3-season room, you'd be able to do that and have 15 feet out from the right of way to it and still meet the side yard setback. And so
Let me just make sure. Sorry, the 8 a.m. meetings, maybe I'm just not thinking as clearly. But Trey, you're saying from here on the side of the concrete patio to the sidewalk is 15 feet.
Approximately, yes.
Okay. And your recommendation is that the fence be located 11 feet from the sidewalk.
No, that it be located right next to the patio, so it would be 15 feet. That way, it would be the same as if somebody were to put an addition, if they were to put an addition on top of that concrete pad, that would allow 15 feet of distance to approximately 15 feet of distance.
Cut my backyard out.
So, okay. But Trey, if the patio is at 15 feet from the sidewalk and you're suggesting an 11-foot setback from the fence, how is that going to align with the concrete pad?
I don't know, that may be a typo because it doesn't add up to the 15 feet. Sorry, we're trying to rewrite this report to
Okay, so your proposal is that the fence
there's-
should be located right along the edge of this, which is at 15 feet. And then
Yes,
go
approximately.
back all the way to here and
And then
here.
tie
It's fine.
into the shed. Yeah, they wouldn't have to go behind the shed, of course, if they're gonna tie into the sides of it. And
Got it.
that allows, I mean, a compliant play area, even with the shed taken out, is about 2,200 square feet. So if they were allowed this additional, 4 feet or so all the way back there's probably a backyard of 2,600 feet or something like that, 2,600 and so odd feet, which is pretty big. I mean, that would be a footprint of a pretty large house. There still should be a pretty adequate play yard, and that's of course taking into account their I'm talking about grass, not the patio and the deck and then the shed and so on. And that would of course enable them, as I said, to protect their shed and allow the safety of having a privacy fence for the kids and for their property there.
Got it. Okay.
So,
Thanks,
sorry
Trey.
that
Just
that
wanted-
got confusing with that, adding up with that. It's just the patio and cages, it does state there that the patio appears to be about 4 feet, you know what I mean? About 4 feet out from the house, which should leave about, and there's a total of 19 feet.
Got it.
So
Okay.
then they would meet the 15 feet setback. So I think that the last part may have just been a typo with the 11 feet. Essentially, we're proposing line up with the patio, because that was something that I noted when I spoke with the Watsons previously, that it does create an awkward transition from there to there, and it while it seems like hard to get to a hardship for having something closer to the sidewalk, it seems reasonable that the fence should be able to go to at least where you would be able to do an addition, right? Because I'm essentially saying if they did an addition, like a sunroom over the top, or a deck or something over the top of that patio, you'd be able to extend straight back from there all the way to the back property line. And
Got it.
you'd be fully compliant because it would be in the rear yard, not the corner side yard. So
Got it.
sorry
Okay.
if that got confusing in the rewrite.
Yep. Thanks, Trey. Want to give the Watsons an opportunity to respond to the recommendation from the planning department to have the fence align with the concrete patio instead of sit in the middle between the patio and the sidewalk.
Well, it just seems like if we go with that recommendation, it's taken a portion of our yard. That's a big chunk. It makes our backyard look smaller if we do it if it has to be done that way.
Okay.
If we had to shrink it down some, I would say maybe where you where you started your line the first time, like in the middle of the sidewalk and the concrete patio. If we can just bring it out a little further than that patio, that pad right down the middle, in between the sidewalk and that pad. That would give us at least a little more room, and we wouldn't have to cut off our yard so much. We don't have to go to the sidewalk, but like right in the middle of the sidewalk and the patio, the concrete pad there.
Gotcha. That's essentially just to preserve more yard space.
Yes.
Okay.
And on our end, from the standpoint of zoning, I mean, that's part of the reason why you have rules for front yard and a corner side yard. So we're, I'm trying to take that into context. That's part of the reason why there's a setback there is to not have something sticking out all the way to where the, other houses around there would be seen. That's the same thing with accessory structures and so on. Like for example, we wouldn't allow the shed to be, out there in that same vicinity. So we're just trying to come up with a meaningful compromise that seemed reasonable in the light of where they could do an addition to the house if they needed to, and to accommodate having the patio enclosed by the fence.
Got it. Okay.
And otherwise, it's hard to get to a hardship as much because that is a corner side yard. It's just part of why it's, that's part of the rule. It's supposed to be like just like a front yard, in that you preserve that as open, as open space. That's the reason for the regulation. And all we're trying to do is come to some reasonable compromise that is in keeping with, if that patio that's existing were a structure like a deck or a sunroom or something, that you'd be able to come straight back from there. And that's where staff and zoning administrator came down on that. That seemed to be reasonable and still give quite a substantial rear yard, similar to some of the other houses along there. I think this lot's actually a little wider than some of the ones on the west side of the street. So they would still have a very, like I said, a rear yard that's darn near the size of their house and deck and so on still. So.
Got it. Okay. Thanks, Trey. All right. I'll give the Watsons one last opportunity to tell me anything else, closing or otherwise, before we adjourn here.
Well, I think what he's saying, if we decided to do a sunroom over there, and even if we did run the fence down the side of the pad there, if they had to go out a little bit with the sunroom, it wouldn't even be room to go out a little bit with the sunroom to bolt down, because the fence would be so close as well. If we decided to go with a top over the pad. So we also want to think about that as well if we decided to do, and you know, we thought about doing something like that as well, but just want to make sure that we'll have enough room that if we wanted to do that and they had to go off to the side a little bit, there will still be room for that as well.
Got it. All right. Unless there's anything else, I think we'll leave it at that. So, I am inclined to approve the fence height and location. I'd like to take a little bit closer look at the neighborhood and some of the application materials before I decide where to draw that line between, it sounds like 15 feet and 6 feet. So typically what I'll do is I need to put my decision in writing with full legal explanation for the decision. And if there's any conditions of that approval, like where this fence can be located or how close it can be located to the street, I'll include all of that in a written decision. I put that decision into a PDF, and then as soon as it's finished, I email it to everybody in the hearing here today. So you all will have a copy of that decision really just moments after it's complete. Like I said, I am going to approve the fence height. I just want to take a little bit closer look at all the circumstances before deciding how close to the sidewalk that fence can go. And I think that's it. Any questions about the process or anything else that happened here today?
No.
Okay. All right, great. Well, if you do have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to reach out. I can't take any more evidence or testimony. The hearing is now closed, but I can answer procedural questions or I can give you an update on where I'm at with the decision if you want to reach out to me directly.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Yep.
Appreciate
Hope you have a
your
great day.
Sure.
Good luck with the project.